Greetings and welcome to College Planning with the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. I'm Dr. Ketsia Sadler, the founder of College Cafe and your moderator for this webinar series. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to be bringing you a very interesting topic. I hope all the middle school parents and students are here listening to us because we have some vital information that you need to hear on planning for your future, whatever it may be. But amazing gems. But first, let's thank our partners in this webinar series. We have, of course, the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. We have Golden V, College Cafe, and Parent Matters. So we thank those organizations for supporting this very important project. So before we start, of course, we have on this amazing panel this evening. So we will start first by introducing Ms. Dayna Hassell, M.Ed., who is currently the regional representative for New Jersey for the Office of Admissions and Financial Aid at the University of Pittsburgh since 2018. And she is also an alum of University of Pittsburgh with her BS in psychology and her M.Ed. in counselor education. Our next guest is Ms. Dina Araujo, LAC NCC, which stands for Licensed Associate Counselor and National Certified Counselor. She's been a school counselor for over 20 years, and her experience is supporting students, families, and educators. Our next guest is Ms. Kharisma Bettis, who is currently a school counselor at Teaneck High School. She graduated from the Mecca Howard University with her bachelor's of arts in journalism and public relations, and she's worked in the music, entertainment, and marketing industry for over 16 years, and completed her master's in education and professional counseling in 2020. Miss Mone't Kendall-Turner, MS LAC, she got both her degrees from Syracuse University, where she bleeds orange, I believe, as most Syracuse graduates do. And she is currently a school counselor at the Bergen County Technical High School in Teterboro. And she has her experience as a licensed associate counselor and access advocate. And finally, last but not least, Miss Natalie Cureton, CPA, who graduated from the Michigan State University in East Lansing with her BA in accounting, and her career spans several organizations such as Deloitte, Bristol Myers Squibb, BP Lubricants, and a few other organizations. And she's currently with the County of Bergen. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining me this evening in this very important topic. I was having a random conversation with a group of parents maybe about almost a month to 2 months ago. And at least one of them said that she was not aware of the opportunities that students could obtain college credits while they were in high school. So I said, okay, well, I guess that is a topic that we need to address right now because it's the end of June. We're getting into the summer. So parents can start somehow between the barbecues, family gatherings, graduation, start talking about this conversation. So their kids who are definitely seventh graders going into eighth grade can really start thinking about what they want to do and how to plan for those college credits. So I wanted to start first by having you all just kind of introduce yourself. I read your bio a little bit, but I think there's so much more enthusiasm and interest when you talk about your academic and or career journey as to how you became the person that you are today as far as your job and what you do from 9 to 5 or even after 9 to 5 and on the weekends. So we'll start with you, Ms. Hassell.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me as part of the panel. I really enjoy the opportunity to speak with students and families whenever I can, because there's so many times that I'm running into students and their parents who, like you said, don't have that awareness and we're left out of a lot of things. So again, thank you. My personal background, in addition to being the regional representative for Pitt for admissions, I'm what we call boomerang. And so I have over 30 years actually of experience also inside schools. I was an academic advisor on the college level. And some of those things that students will come to the application process looking at in terms of where do they need to go. It's okay for students and their parents not to know, but when you do have a chance to experiment, trying these courses early in your research, it's never too early. I'll have sophomores and freshmen come up and say, I'm really not paying attention to too much right now. It's too early for me. It's never too early. Pay attention to what types of things are of interest to you, and maybe try taking a course at your local community college. But you want to research some of the schools and the interests that you're focusing on to see what their particular procedures are, because you don't want to waste time and money uh, going around in circles. Talk to people who you know maybe are doing something of interest to you. Find out how they got to where they are. That's pretty much what I did. My father was a licensed clinical social worker, but he was an administrator. And so I liked that side. So, that going to work with a parent or another important adult in your life, all of those experiences where you can get some hands on to figure out the things that you like, but more importantly, the things you don't like, because you can cross those off the list.
Do you want me to go?
All right, thank you, Ms. Hassell. Let's move to you, Ms. Araujo, if you want to share your career path with us.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on this panel. Honestly, because I wish I would have had something like this, or my parents would have had something like this when I was younger, so that they kind of had more of an idea of how to get me ready for college. But I have 20 years of experience. I've been an educator for 11 years, and I've been a school counselor for the past 8 years, 8 or 9 years at this point. And I've been with the middle school for the past 6 years. So some things that we do at the middle school, our kids in 8th grade get ready and take Algebra 1 and geometry in preparation for high school. We also are really big on talking to our 7th graders, because we know how important it is that they do well in 7th grade, because that's when they have the opportunity to apply for technical schools in Bergen County. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Bettis, you're next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Again, it also is my complete pleasure to be here and be on the panel for this evening. I am finishing up my 5th year as a school counselor, high school counselor at Teaneck High School. Have worked in the outskirts of education or with youth, if you may, for years, probably about 20 plus years before that, doing extracurricular work. So now it definitely is a different and a new experience to be able to have my hands in on the almost on the high school side of the process. So as the previous counselor was just mentioning, it doesn't just start in high school. As the admissions, counselor was mentioning, it doesn't just start in high school. That's a large chunk of what happens to get you to where you want to be as a college student. But the earlier, the sooner, the better. It's never too early. And I would say, as far as the middle schoolers that come in, and this may be a question that we get into, but even just to kind of put it out there early, there's always an edge for those that start early, that start about their extracurriculars early, that make sure that they're keeping their academics, in line early, that look into leadership and summer opportunities early. So looking forward to what this night has to hold.
Thank you. Ms. Kendall-Turner?
Hi, everyone. So similar, been on the outskirts of education for quite some time after finishing my grad program, working for a community-based organization in Newark called New Jersey Seed. So working with high-achieving low-income students to place them into independent schools all over the U.S., and had the chance to actually visit those schools that students were at. So I did that, and then transitioned into school counseling, primarily working with 100% Pell eligible high school students, getting them ready for the college process, and not only them, but their families, and realizing that it's not just primarily a decision for the students, but also for their families, being that they relied on their parents for financial aid information. So I had the opportunity of building a college counseling department for Great Oaks Legacy Charter School back in the day when we were first founded, and then had the opportunity to transition to Bergen Tech, and finally became tenured. So made my 4 years in a day. So a school, thank y'all. You see, it's a journey, y'all. so was able to do that, and I've loved the experience of working with different populations of students. So working in North, there was a different population of students that I was working with, where, you know, we were addressing different things, and now working with Bergen Tech, it's a little different. But nonetheless, I enjoy it. I'm also a founder of Evolving Futures Consulting, and do some college counseling on the side for anyone that's interested in receiving that additional support, personal statements, so on and so forth. And then finally, you know, I just good old mom, trying to keep my wits about myself. And but I love this work, similar to my colleagues on this panel. We live and breathe this work, and I'm really excited to be here this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Cureton, you're muted. Mm-mm.
Can we hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Moving back to other technology. I come from a slightly different background, as I am the parent of 2 students that went through dual enrollment and AP coursework successfully, and it helped them as they progressed through college. So my background is in accounting, as Ketsia mentioned. I went to Michigan State. I am from the Bergen County area. I currently work for the County of Bergen. And I do talk to parents and students along the way and encourage them, but just not as a profession, but as a passion to help our students and our children excel at what they do educationally.
Thank you. Thank you. When I was putting the panel together, I thought it was important to have people from different levels of the whole college process, and then having a parent, because sometimes you hear the professionals, okay, yes, all right, I need to do it, but I need some proof. So can I have somebody who's lived it and breathed it, who can tell me, who is not just trying to encourage my child to do it? So that's why each of you were picked, because you are an expert in this area in some way. And so what I thought was important is we kind of have to start from the end result before we get down to the middle schools and what they need to do. So I wanted to start the question off with Ms. Hassell at the collegiate level. So when kids are coming in, what's happening with credits that they may have from dual enrollment or taking AP courses, or even the private schools where they have the international baccalaureate degree, or even the kids coming in who have associate's degree. Ms. Cureton's younger daughter graduated with her before she went off to Hampton. So again, what does the college do, or how does it help benefit a student who's coming in with those those credits?
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to answer this one first. So with each school, they have different rules about how they look at AP honors, all the different things. So that's where that research comes in. And so what works for one school may be the complete opposite for another. For example, the University of Pittsburgh, we will look at any of the courses that are taken at the community college or another four-year institution in terms of completion and review process for admission. We will not give you an answer about where those credits will go until you have committed to us after that May 1 and said you're coming to us. There's two reasons for that. People may change their mind. If we're reviewing you for one set of programs and certain courses apply to that, and we say, oh, we're going to take 4 of these courses and you don't have to take these courses when you get there. But during the course of the time when you apply in August to when you come that following May, you may change your mind and be in a whole different mindset about what you want to pursue. So that may not be the case anymore. And so we don't want to mislead students saying, well, you told me that I didn't have to take these courses, now I do. So we avoid that until the student does get there, but that doesn't mean that they can't change their mind once they're there as well. That's where the academic advisor will come in. They will sit down with each student on an individual basis and look at the courses that students have taken prior to graduation from high school. If that's incorporated in your high school transcript, great. It will already be there for us to review during the admissions process. So if you've decided to take an AP chemistry class at the county level or at another four-year institution before you have graduated, we're still looking at you've completed chemistry. It doesn't matter to us where that's taken place. But once you enroll, then your advisor will say, you don't have to take this general education requirement because you satisfied that requirement. And that differs from school to school. So it's a little tricky in that respect. But one of the things that you do want to keep in mind in taking the courses is not to get too specific, because that's where you can kind of get yourself into the weeds a little bit, where the specific course might not be the right type of math course. It's a great math course, but it's not the one for the program you need. So staying in the general area, getting those general electives in across the board, in the social sciences, in the Englishes, things like that out of the way. That's where you might want to focus. And each school, including the University of Pittsburgh, has a page dedicated to what test score you need to get for the AP exams, and then if and what category that will count under. So the big answer is it depends on the school, but that's where your research and your questions would come in, because you don't know what you don't know, and it's not a blanket across the whole universe.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk to some of the, I don't even know how to phrase this part, but just add it to our panelists who maybe, I'm going to say this way, you didn't graduate college in the 80s or the 90s, I don't think. Or if you did any of you have any college?
Yes,
or you want to share if you had any credits that were applied towards your degrees? I know I didn't even bother taking any AP, so I'm not in the class even. Yes.
I did. Okay. I went to an all-girls private school. They had a partnership with UMD&J at the time. And I was able to take classes like anatomy and physiology. Of course, this is high school, but I was able to take classes like anatomy and physiology, and so on. Additionally, Syracuse had a program. I was part of a community-based organization called Operation Link Up at the time. Mr. Carrie Jenkins, may he rest in peace. Nonetheless, it was a phenomenal program that had a partnership with Syracuse University, dual enrollment. And so during the summers, called Summer Start, as a junior and senior, I was able to take summer classes there. So graduating from high school, I had 27 college credits. Of course, it was a little ambitious because I also wanted to take some classes at PCC, Passaic County, Passaic Community College. I'm sorry, we've taken up the county now. But I took classes there as well during the summer. And so that's what allowed me to do so. But, it's interesting. Mrs. Hassell mentioned, universities and how each school will take different credits. So I learned very early on as a freshman going to the recorder's office. That's what we used to call it back in the day at Syracuse. Now, I guess it's the registrar. But learned very quickly that, some of those classes that I had taken, some applied, I could get the credit, the 3 credits for it, and some did not, right? But that was my experience of dual enrollment.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to share on their credit experience with getting any being applied to their degree? No? Okay. All right. So since Ms. Mone't, you were just talking, I want to talk to the high school counselors now. So how do you guide your students to take AP courses, or if there's or dual enrollment or whichever, and how do you, especially with a child who you might think is hesitant because they say, oh, I'm not smart enough, oh, I can't do it, oh, I'm too busy. So what do you say to them, and to the parents also who might be resistant, because sometimes parents think that their children shouldn't challenge themselves?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question. For us, my thought process is, if you're thinking about it, challenge yourself and try it, especially we have at our school something called the academic misplacement window. So that pretty much gives students, like through the first marking period, to try a course, an honors course or an AP course that they may be interested in trying. And if they get into it and they realize, okay, this is too much too fast, my thought is you don't want to take an AP class to necessarily get a D in the class, right? Now you're taking the benefit of taking that AP. Yes, you're still going to get a bump with your, weighted GPA, but I'm sure as a college admissions rep, may be able to tell you that doesn't look as satisfying, right? And it probably means that you may not be ready to receive that score on the AP test to even really have those college credits applied. So if it's something that's of interest to you to try, and your academic record has shown before that you are ready for that class. Maybe you've taken honors classes in middle school, or maybe you're a 10th or 11th grader or a 12th grader now, and you've had that academic, progression where you've gone from a non-honors class to an honors class, and now you may be academically ready for that AP class. Try it out, and then in that academic misplacement window, if you realize that you may not be as successful as you are going to need to be throughout the year, then that's that time that we can have the conversation about making that switch. We have AP courses and dual enrollment courses, which are not necessarily AP classes. So that's also another avenue that we may direct our students, where if AP may not be the level that you feel that you're confident to be ready at, take investing honors, or take, intro to short story, or another course where you can still get that rigor of a college course experience, still earn that credit through dual enrollment, but maybe not feel the pressure. A lot of students come feeling the pressure of needing to take the AP test. So that's another opportunity to be able to get the college credits without necessarily having to feel that burden or the pressure of having to take the AP test, for example. So that's kind of, my avenue. Try it, have a conversation through it, look at your academic history, know that it may take some extra effort, right? You want to be enrolled in these college level courses. Also know that you may have to stay after school. with your teacher for a little bit than you may have done in the past. So you can meet that standard that the course may require of you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kendall-Turner, you want to add some?
Yeah, I would add as well, in addition to looking at your academics, I would also, I sit with students and we talk about your skills and what skills would you like to develop. For instance, we have an AP seminar class that our 10th grade and 11th grade students can take. It deals with research, finding a topic, researching it, presenting on different topics. So you are pushing yourself, right? And that AP exam is you are sending a recording of yourself giving a presentation, right? You're also working in a group at different junctures of the semester or the marking period with other students on different topics. So when we're looking at the AP courses that you're perhaps exploring, I encourage students to think about what are the skills that you have that you know you're strong at, as well as what are the skills that you would like to develop. So if it is the public speaking skills, AP seminar is the class that's going to push you there, right? If it's AP English language and composition, are you, up for doing the slid topes, and really getting into the mix of really writing and building that stamina to write a particular statement or response within a given time frame? In terms of dual enrollment, we have partnerships for our school with NJIT, Syracuse, BCC, with several schools. And so for my freshmen and my sophomore students, if you're going to be in Spanish 1, why not receive the dual enrollment for Spanish 1 in terms of that credit? Now, of course, there is a price for that. So as a family, you all talk about that. But I really encourage our families to look at our website, look at the scope and sequence when you're taking these particular classes. What is it also putting you on track for? So if you're taking an AP Calculus AB at our school, that will put you on track for maybe BC, right? For AP Calculus. In addition to that, there's something called the AP Credit Policy. So if you type it into Google, it's AP Credit Policy. And you're able to look at all of the AP courses and to see that if you are interested in taking that AP exam, what is the score that you need to receive? And from that score, you're also able to see the colleges. What are they looking for? And what is that score? What does that AP course correspond to in terms of one of the courses at their school? So if you're looking at NJIT and you're taking AP Calculus AB, does that align with one of their math courses on campus that saves money for your parents, but also that's a math course you can skip? So, the additional research also helps. Speaking with your school counselor, really having a open, transparent conversation with your school counselor to explore those interests, those skills, having the tough conversations, right, is really important.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Araujo, we're going to jump to you in the middle school. So how are you talking to the students and when are you telling them about all these opportunities? You're mute.
Sorry about that. Currently in the middle school, we are starting in the 7th grade. In the building that I'm working at, we have the privilege that we start the kids for math with Algebra 1. And then they can, in 7th grade and 8th grade, they can take geometry. They also take the state test in order for it to be equivalent to the classes that they would have taken in high school. And we all know that in high school, we need 3 years of math. So those are one of the things that we do. We also have the honors route. So if you're in honors, which I know one of the counselors that talked about before, then by the time they get to high school, then maybe they're more prepared for an AP course. So we do start immediately in 7th grade. As a matter of fact, I know that I talked to my 7th graders in the middle of the school year, just letting them know what the process is going to look like in 8th grade when they get to choose what high school they're going to go to, what are their interests. And we talk to the parents as well. The ones that unfortunately know about it are giving us a call. Not all, I say unfortunately, because not all parents know, right? And you know what you know. So we do have those conversations. Early 8th grade, we do bring counselors from the Bergen Tech School so that they can talk to the parents, make them aware. And we do as much as we can to get the parents in the know for the kids' future. And we talk about that's when they talk about dual enrollment and AP courses and things of that nature. And we entice them by letting them know it's a money saver, for their kids' future, for their pockets.
Okay, thank you. Money is that's the key word. How do you save money? So if you pay a little bit less now, it will help so much more in the future. So Ms. Cureton, want to jump to you now. So how did you guide your daughters, especially your younger one, who, as I said before, graduated high school with her associates? So what did you say? Or maybe you didn't have to say much.
I did not have to say much. My younger daughter, both my daughters are high achievers. But once we discussed with the counselors, similarly in middle school, about what future opportunities were and explaining what AP and dual enrollment were, she kind of took to it. And both girls went to one of the academy high schools here in Bergen. My younger daughter went to Bergen Tech in Teterboro. And fortunately for her and the counselors that she had, and the teachers, just about every primary class she took had an opportunity to either earn AP credit or dual enrollment credit. And so she went through her entire high school career, I guess you'd call it, with that mindset that she was working to a higher level. And as you go through the process, the best thing that, like you just said, is that even though we had to pay a tuition to Bergen Community or Syracuse or Fairleigh Dickinson, whichever school certified the coursework, it was actually cheaper than what the regular full tuition rate is when you're a regular student there. And so, and I'm going to correct you because she'd kill me if I didn't. But my younger daughter, when she graduated from Bergen Tech and she moved on to the Howard University, the Mecca. So she did actually walk onto that campus as a sophomore. We made one goof in her time there, and Howard corrected us and said, well, 2 classes actually for her foreign language were too similar. So they counted it as the same class. But pretty much all of her general education requirements were just about complete when she walked onto campus. And so she actually graduated from Howard in 3 years. So that's also an additional savings because that's 1 year less of tuition, room and board, and so forth that we paid for.
Okay. So again, that money saver. I apologize for not saying Howard instead of Hampton. For those of you who are not familiar, these 2 schools are the biggest rivals in the South, I think, when it comes to who is the HU. So my apologies to Raven. So here's my other question, kind of related to that. So especially for the middle school and the high school counselors, and also Ms. Cureton. So how do we handle parents who don't feel their children can handle the intensity of the courses? The child may want to take the classes, but the parent is hesitant. And especially for the kids at middle and high school level, parents still have a little more control. By the time they get to Ms. Hassell on the college campus, parents are not around anymore to have that influence. But how are we guiding the children, and how do you persuade, whatever word we want to use, to have a parent kind of take a step back and allow the child to explore?
I don't mind jumping in. Similar to what Ms. Bettis had mentioned, right? Understanding the ad drop deadline in high school in terms of your schedule, I think is really important. As well as for the school counselors on our end, I think, when we're talking to parents that are hesitant, I think it's really asking the question, what are your concerns? My child's time management. I have to beg them to do homework. Like, these are real concerns. And for me, I think it's important to have the student in that conversation with their parent, right? Because we all need to be on the same page of, if this is a class that you want to take, we're going back to those skills, your time management has to be on point if we're going to do an AP Lang, right? An AP Environmental, whatever it is, we'll have to come to terms with, these are some of the concerns. What are some of the tools we're going to implement, right? So if it's focusing, are we doing a Pomodoro sort of technique to keep you on task, keep you focused when we're doing all of this homework at night? How are we looking at our schedule? So I think, with parents, it's really important. And I always tell my students to have a plan. I think your parents will be more open to trusting you when they see that you have thought through the situation and that you have created a plan for yourself to provide a solution, as opposed to just saying, I don't know, well, I do want to play my Xbox. I don't know. If you're not honest and transparent in that conversation with your counselor and your parent, that's where the concern comes in, and rightfully so.
Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? No.
I'll jump in just as a parent.
Okay.
From the parent side. It's just, you encourage your kids to try. They had to open themselves up and allow themselves to dream, to pursue something different. And you might like it, you might really excel at it. You won't know if you don't try. But I did appreciate that opportunity, like Ms. Bettis and Ms. Turner were saying about the add drop period, because I did have that happen in considering one of my daughters doing a math class that was more advanced, and I was hesitant, and I was like, I don't know, but I allowed her to try it and worked with the counselor to say, like, okay, when we get through the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like, let's regroup, let's meet again, let's review where she is, and if she's not performing where she needs to be successful, then let's reevaluate. And what we ended up doing in that instance was something similar like that, and ended up changing the class, where she then had an opportunity to grasp the material and excel at it better.
Okay.
And just to add as well, I would encourage parents to check with your school's policy, because the add drop goes the same way, where if a student starts in a non-AP course, they can always start there. And if they feel like, you know what, I actually do realize that I am up for the challenge, then they can go up a level. I personally encourage it the other way, because it's easier to start off hot and heavy and then kind of back down than to start off slower. And then now you're jumping into an AP course, and typically they're already like 3 weeks ahead. But just to know, or kind of find out from your school if there is an opportunity to start at the non-AP level and then move forward if you feel like you can take up that challenge. But then know, if that is the case, you will then have to work to catch up, because those AP teachers are not waiting for you. So.
And I just wanted to piggyback off of that from the college side, that a lot of decisions are made based on the perception that the college is going to have of you. Like, I've already started in honors or AP, I can't go back down. Yes, you can, because someone had mentioned earlier, when it comes to the bottom line, we're looking at the grade that the student has earned. And so we're not taking into consideration, he got a D in AP course, so that's kind of the equivalent. No, we don't do that. A D is a D is a D. So if you're pushing yourself and, you're really spending 50%, 75% of your study time on that one course, that's too much for you. You have other courses that you're not giving your all to. So maybe you need to back down off of the math and, or the English or whatever course that you're spending all the time, so that you can, spread yourself across your coursework and not burn yourself out, and also become disinterested because you're struggling in that one course. We're not going to say, hey, wait a minute, they were in AP and now they dropped down to honors. No, we're going to actually look at it, at least from Pitt's perspective. we're looking at it. You had an awareness of yourself, and this is part of the holistic review process that you'll hear about as you're going through your college research. That the student had enough self-awareness or influence, from the guidance counselor or the family to say, you know what, this isn't your forte at this level. You can be the best you are at maybe a different level. And that goes both ways, because we're also looking at students who may have straight A's across the board, but they're all on a standard curriculum. Like, that's not really showcasing. You can do more. There's more there. Go ahead and try that and figure out which courses you can excel at. And, the sky's the limit.
I'll just add one thing from the middle school. I know when our kids are coming into the 7th grade, we triangulate data and we look at the teacher recommendations, state scores, district testing scores. And if we decide to put them in honors and they've never been in honors before, we do pick up the phone as counselors and we have that conversation with the parents, making sure that they're okay with it. How is their schedule going to look like? How is their evening going to look like with homework? And to make sure that they have an understanding. If they are hesitant, we explain what is to come about being in honors. So if you start in the honors, it can open so many more doors in the high school. And usually just by having that conversation, parents are always willing to try it. We tell them we'll monitor them through the first marking period and see where they're at. And we can have that conversation again. If there's any hesitancy or if they're not doing well, we do tell them, you know what, maybe it is best that they go back to Gen Ed instead of honors classes, because yes, I think it's important that they know that they can start off and they can also go back, and then we'll take a look at it again in 8th grade and see where they are. So I agree with what was just said as well.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing and I'm hoping that the parents and the students in the audience are realizing that it's important to have that conversation and that relationship with the guidance counselors, and also when you're visiting the high schools as an 8th grader, to ask questions as to whether they do have that academic misplacement time period. Not sure if that was around when I was in high school. I kind of felt like you just started the class and you went along. If you were struggling, okay, you talked to your teachers. But I think that's important to know, because you do have a little bit of leeway to change if the class is too difficult for you. So I think that's a good thing for parents to know. So let's talk now. It's none of you all, but what would you say to a parent who knows their child is capable, but yet the guidance counselor is bucking against the parent asking for recommendation and say, hey, my child they're not busy. They're in calculus and they're done with their homework or anything. And they're like, but I know that there's an AP course or something higher. So how do you encourage the parents? What do you say to them to help them to advocate for their child with a counselor who is resistant?
I think if a counselor is resistant, perhaps we need to hop offline, have an in-person discussion, and really talk through my child's profile, their skills, feedback from teachers. Like, I want the whole 9. I'm thinking of it of like, if it were me, as a counselor, I have had concerns about students wanting to take an AP course, especially if procrastination is a big thing and they get very anxious and stressed out. And I try to be very transparent, empathetic, right, and kind, because we shouldn't want to be nasty, right, with anyone. But the thought is that if I do have genuine concerns, I would present, real-time data or experiences of, these are some of the things that I've observed. This is some of the feedback that I've received. We can absolutely go for this, but I need you to understand, student so-and-so, that we really need to work on these skills. And on the flip side, as a parent, I think you have every right to schedule a meeting and have that transparent, what is the feedback that you've received? What have you observed? Why Why are you concerned? Why does there seem to be this push, like this, this obstacle for my student to take it? I think when we're able to get off the email, get off the phone, and actually have a face-to-face conversation, that, I think that shifts things in some ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's really just kind of laying out, hearing their concerns, or hearing, not concerns, because on that side it's kind of hearing their advocacy, being transparent about your concerns, and figuring out what the goal is. Sometimes people want to, again, have that honors or AP just to have it. Do you want to have it just to have it? Are you doing it to challenge yourself? Are you trying to show, academic growth on your transcript? Really, what is your goal in wanting to do it? And then whatever the truth moments may be, kind of figuring out, are there real life answers to how they can then meet those challenges that they have. So similar to what was just mentioned, if time management is a problem, if going to see your teachers are, a problem, if keeping your homework is in order is a challenge, what are some things that you can do, and are you realistically willing and ready to, do those things? So I think it's really all about those transparent moments. And also just to highlight, depending upon what the goal is, highlighting other things that can make that holistic student be highlighted. So maybe it's not always about, sometimes the thought is, it's just about academics, but maybe you need to get into some more extracurricular activities. Maybe you've been in an extracurricular activity and it's now stepping up and showing some leadership opportunities, in those extracurricular activities. Maybe it's going out for student council and, so doing some extra community service work, because there are students, we utilize Naviance, which is one of our college planning tools. And you'll see a student that may have a 4.4 GPA and they did not get accepted, but the student that had a 3.5 did. So the only reason why you can ask yourself what gave that student the edge. They may have been involved. They may have had a superb essay. So get into the writing center and work on your writing skills, do some other things that can enhance you as a student, because it's not solely just based on, that honors or AP class.
Yes, absolutely. Anyone else want to comment on that?
I would just add, just to encourage the parents to be your child's advocate, and don't hesitate to reach out to the guidance office, and whichever counselor is assigned. I, as a high school student, had a somewhat similar type of experience where one counselor was less encouraging and supportive. And after my mother's advocacy and speaking, and then, it didn't change much, but there were other counselors that heard about it and gave additional encouragement. And I ended up having 2 different counselors that I spoke with, and got like both sides, the devil's advocate and the angel on either shoulder, giving you more perspective, which helped make me a stronger candidate when I was applying for college once I got through high school. But don't stop advocating for your child. Okay. Make sure they know you believe in them and you encourage them and you want the best for them and you want them to do their best no matter what it is they're doing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to piggyback off of what Miss Kendall-Turner said before. My older son was part of that same program in Patterson that was able to help him get into Syracuse University. And as she said, Mr. Jenkins was an amazing person as far as really looking at students and giving them that push to try a little bit more. I know the summer that my son came back from doing summer college between his junior and senior year of high school at Syracuse, he came back and said, I thought I knew how to write. So he had gotten that extra encouragement, the extra support during that summer to realize that, okay, college writing is a little bit different. But again, it was coming from someone who was able to, who had seen experiences with other students and could say, yes, you can do it. You know, you need to try a little bit more. So with my younger son, we kind of knew we had enough in our tool belt to really guide him in exploring and taking AP courses or dual enrollments at an earlier age. So definitely that's why I try to encourage parents is look at your children where their strengths are so that you can be their advocate with the guidance counselor to say that, no, my child can handle it. Yes, I know they may lack in this area, but I know in this one, they're stronger there. So they can do it. So my next question is pretty much with Ms. Cureton and Ms. Hassell. Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Sorry. I just wanted to add one thing. You had brought up something that popped something up in my head. With Mrs. Cureton had mentioned in terms of being an advocate. I would suggest, you know, if you're tech savvy, you can create a Google form, parents, and send it to your child's teachers, right? Just surveying them on how your child is doing that marking period. Especially if you have a counselor that may be not as supportive, come with your own data, right? Come with your own information, feedback from the teachers. It's also perhaps easier for me to click a form and fill out something like that as opposed to doing an email or a conference. But I'm just thinking, you know, in addition to the advocacy, I mentioned scheduling the meeting. Cureton mentioned, you know, being an advocate for your child. You know, try to find different ways of getting that data in addition to the report card, but having those conversations, getting that feedback so that if there is pushback, you know, you have some clear information about areas of growth as well as what your child is doing well in. Sorry.
Nope. No need to be sorry. We're learning. Sending out information. We're trying to give parents as much in their toolkit so they can advocate, talk to their children, and really plan where their child will be in the next few years. So I wanted to address the next question because I was listening to an Instagram post with a student who graduated high school with, had to be at least 40 to 50 college credits. And the student was not nervous, but she was a little upset because she felt the pressure of saying, oh my gosh, I'm only 19 or 20, and now I have to figure out my life as far as grad school, things like that. So what can we say to a student who wants to do it, but yet they feel like, especially in that collegiate level, like, okay, I'm in school and I can finish college in 2.5, maybe 3 years, but I'm not ready to leave college yet. So what do we say to them?
I want to jump in here because that's probably my biggest question, especially with undecided students when they feel that they have to know everything. I tell them, one, this is going to be the best 4 or whatever years of your entire life. Slow down, enjoy it, try everything, because this is the only time in your life where you're going to be able to make mistakes and with relatively few consequences. And the mistakes that you make at 19, 18 will be forgiven much easier than at 28 or 38 or 48. And so you have all of these opportunities to try that. So don't feel the pressure to perform. Use it as the opportunity to find out about yourself. And ask questions, try things, try courses. You've always been interested in something. I know that for me, you know, it was always, you know, straightforward, traditional academics. Being the only child and not being able to go away to school kind of narrowed the focus of, you know, our college selection process. And so that was my chance to explore taking some classes that I know that I wasn't going to be allowed to take under any other circumstances. So I took an acting class, a psychodrama class, these types of things. And I found out more about myself. And these opportunities are waiting there for you in school. And 15 weeks later, you get to try it again. And so look at it as just short-term opportunities for you to explore, not a pressure to do all 4 years in your head at that one moment. Because the reality of it, when we're thinking back, the type of life decisions that, students have to make, they're doing a lot. I find that the students, I said, what do you do for fun? Like, I see all these courses, I see all these credits. This is great. But what do you do for fun? And social media is a big pressure. I mean, I feel very grateful that was not part of my environment. We had to interact with people. And so people skills, this is the time for you to, join a club, find other people who may be interested in that same academic area. And we have over 600 different clubs, and academically based, socially based. Connect with other people to find out about yourself, because you're growing academically as well as socially, emotionally, spiritually, and becoming the adult that you want to be.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add on that? No? Okay, so is there anything that I didn't think of that has popped into anyone's head that we want to share with the families on how to start that trajectory of college and careers? Anything that I might have missed or not mentioned before? No need to.
I'll jump in. I would just say as far as the idea of starting early, it literally is that if you already know that you're a student or a parent that would like to explore these types of opportunities, because deadlines are a big thing. So whether you're talking to your 8th grade counselor or you're just getting into 9th grade, really kind of find out what are all of your options early. Not that you have to take advantage of all or any of them, but oftentimes you can use, like, we have a partnership with Bergen Tech, a share time program. So oftentimes students will come in 9th or 10th grade and they're interested in doing share time, but they miss the fact that they may have had to already apply in 8th grade. Or we have the early college program with Bergen Community College, where now our students are going to be working towards getting their associates, but they have to put that application in by the middle of their sophomore year. So there's just certain things that when it comes to opportunities, you may miss the opportunity. Different from dual enrollment classes or AP classes where you can kind of take them, year by year. There are some of these larger opportunities that you may miss. So just sitting down with your counselor and kind of getting some people don't like to use the word track, right? But if you want to use trajectory instead, sure. You have to have, prerequisites to certain classes. So, if I want to take this AP Calc my senior year, I can't think about that in my junior year. I have to know what I should be taking in my freshman year to know what's going to get me there. So it's really kind of having those conversations early, because the truth will be that if you wait, you may miss that opportunity that you're looking for.
Okay. Definitely early is important, not missing deadlines. I always say that to my students and families, because once you miss a deadline, you may not get that opportunity again. Or if you do, then you're kind of behind the 8 ball of catching up with the program. So what about your students who say to you, and this is to everyone, that, well, I don't really want to go to college. I think I want to become a hairdresser or something. So how are we guiding students who may feel that that's where their strengths are?
It's helping them research programs, right? And so I do have students, I work with students that we have majors at my high school. And so I have the aerospace and the automotive engineering and design students. And so for those students, I do have some that are interested. They do not want to go to college. And so that's the challenge for me of, okay, let's look at, vocational programs. UTI, we're looking at Lincoln Tech or for any of my students interested in cosmetology, what does that look like? And again, pulling the parents in on that conversation, sharing those programs. Are there opportunities? Are there apprenticeships? Like, how are we getting our hands, wet in experiencing this a little bit more? As well as, once we have that, do we want to start our own business, after that? So does it make sense to also go to BCC and get some classes in, business or bookkeeping or whatever the case may be, accounting, so that you can have that experience as well? So, I definitely think it's really just researching, looking at those resources. For the students that may not know what they want to do, but they're looking at vocational tech, there are certain things that you can look at. I'm going to keep saying skills. Naviance has particular career assessments, surveys that you can use. So definitely speak with your school counselor about your child if they haven't already, to see the results of that, right? And see what are the skills that they have, the interests that they have. There's also something called ONET. So O*net. And that is something you can put into Google as well. They have an interest profiler where you can, answer questions. They're not the most, fun questions. They can be a little dry and boring, but they also ask questions in regards to your interests. And it's not only for students, but also adults. So I would also say just tap into surveys, interest profilers, like different things that help you explore what it is that you like to do, so that we can truly curate a path for you that makes sense, and that you feel like you could be successful in.
Okay, thank you. So parents, we heard we need to start early with this process, and we need to, the students in high school, or even Ms. Araujo, are you using Naviance at the middle school or no? Or something similar?
We do have Naviance.
Okay. All right. So parents, it may not be called Naviance at your child's high school. So if you have not met with your child's counselor yet all year, we suggest that you do that before the school year ends. Well, if you're in the South, school is probably over, but even so, shoot an email. You want to have that conversation with your parents. And then we've been mentioning BCC. I know for myself that BCC has free programs right now in the summer for children from 1st through 12th grade. So there's lots of time to explore for free where your child's interest might be. There might be something, a class that is not offered at school, but in the summer, the child can take them at no cost to you and kind of start building up their portfolio or building up their skill set to where they can figure out, oh, I think I might want to major in this, or go to a high school that specializes in X, Y, and Z. So ladies, do we have any other information we want to impart on the families before we let them go? They're probably overwhelmed with all the information that we've been sharing, so they don't even know what to ask anymore. But just want to give you all the opportunity to close out and share anything.
I just wanted to say one of the positives post-pandemic is the access that you have to colleges and their information via their virtual information sessions without getting too personal or too involved, just trying to figure out what's going on. You don't want a whole lot of extra emails or, extra contact, to further, I guess, complicate the whole thing. One of the things I do suggest to parents when they're starting out with this process, if they do want to get correspondence, is to set up a separate family email, separate from work email for the parents, because that can be a disaster. And also for the students, just keeping everything separate, but also this gives you a chance to stay on top of those deadlines, and use the same email to have all correspondence sent to you from all the different schools. So if they want to go ahead and look at 25, I think that's my limit that I've ever seen, 25 different schools, they can have all this information in coming into that email address. And each school has their own folder. And when you're no longer interested in that particular school, you can just send a stop message and that's done. Also, for parents, this gives you the opportunity to stay on top of those deadlines, because as they get in high school, they have activities, they have their service projects, and so on and so forth. They may forget to, tell you about something. It's one thing when they forget to bring that note home from the teacher and you find it in the laundry, as opposed to missing a major deadline for a scholarship opportunity, things like that. So this allows you that access to say, hey, did you do X, Y, and Z by this Friday? So it keeps you involved without, in a healthy way, I like to say. And so everyone's happy. So when I said earlier, it's never too early to get involved. You can do these types of things without making yourself, overly accessible to a school, at your own distance and at your own pace. And we're always happy to answer questions. And most of the things, look for frequently asked questions on websites. I guarantee you, if you have the same question, 10 other parents at least have the same question. So you're not alone.
Okay. Thank you for that encouragement. Sometimes I think parents feel like they're the only one who's had to go through this. But again, 3 of us have kids who have been through it. We've survived. One of us has been working with thousands of children. So we've survived the process, and the counselors are in the throes of it, helping children go through and get into the college or trade school of choice. So you have 6 resources here to my virtual audience. So reach out if you are in the area. If one of these ladies is your child's counselor and you have not had a conversation with her yet, then you need to do that. Those of you, Ms. Cureton is around as well, and Ms. Hassell, her information has been showing under the slide, so you can reach out to her as well if you have questions. We're here to help you so that your children can achieve their goals for success, whatever that may be. And so on that note, I want to thank our guests this evening, Ms. Dayna Hassell, Ms. Dina Araujo, Ms. Kharisma Bettis, Ms. Mone't Kendall-Turner, and Ms. Natalie Cureton for coming on this evening to have this frank conversation with our middle school students and their families, and even some of you in high school and college. Hopefully you got some nuggets of information as well that you can take back to your school or you can work on during the summer so your next year can be successful. And again, I want to thank NAAHP, College Cafe, and Golden V and Parent Matters for being our sponsors in this program. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and have a great night, and we'll see you on the next broadcast. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.